Good morning, students. I am Anshul Khanna, Assistant Professor, Department of Computer Science. Today, we will be discussing the topic of keys in DBMS. Okay, so first of all, let me first introduce what is actually a key. A key is basically an attribute that is used to identify the entities that are present. For example, if we have a collection of entities in an entity set, then how we are going to distinguish among the entities. For this, we will need a key. So a key helps basically in uniquely identifying an entity instance in an entity set. Now, we can have different type of keys. We have primary key, we have candidate key, we have alternate key, we have super key, and we have foreign key. So let us discuss each of these keys one by one. First of all, let me introduce to you what is a primary key. A primary key basically is used to uniquely identify an entity in an entity set. For example, as you can see in the diagram over here, we have an entity named employee. Now it can have different types of attributes like employee ID, first name, middle name, last name, gender, date of joining, designation, and salary. Now, each of these attributes will have a different value. But as we all know that the employee ID of each employee will be different. That means it will be unique for each. So if I want to identify any employee in the entity set of employee, so I will be able to uniquely identify it with the help of employee ID. So employee ID will be unique. So this type of attribute is known as a primary key. So a primary key can have certain characteristics like its value can never be null, its value will always be unique, and the value that is once provided cannot be changed or become null during the lifetime of entity. The value that we have given, it should remain the same. So such type of attribute is known as primary key. Next, we will discuss composite primary key. So, but as we have discussed what is a primary key, now primary key will able to uniquely identify an entity. Now it is not necessary that a single attribute in a table will be able to uniquely identify all the entities. Sometimes we may have to take a collection of attributes from it, that is a collection of columns. So in that case, the primary key will be said to be a composite primary key because it is made up of a set of attributes, not a single attribute. So what we can say over here is that combination of two or more table columns that can be used to identify table rows uniquely is known as composite key or composite primary key. Let us understand this with the help of an example. For example, in this table you can see we have customer ID, product ID, and product quantity. Now the customer ID is over here some values I have taken 66, 67, 68, 69, 66. So we can see over here that we cannot make customer ID as a primary key because you can see over here this value 66 is repeated over here also and over here also. As you can see, this is 66 over here and here also we have 66. So we cannot make this as a primary key. Next we come to product ID. As you can see product ID over here 9023 and this is also 9023. So again, we are having the same values. So we cannot make this product ID alone as a primary key. Next, we have product quantity. Obviously, product for making this as a primary key is uh, not justified. So we cannot make this alone as a primary key. So what we can do over here, we can combine these two attributes, this attribute and this attribute, and these two attributes can then be combined and made as a primary key. So such type of keys are known as composite key or composite primary key. Means these two together, customer ID and product ID, these two together, they are going to identify all the entities, all the entities. Okay. So this is known as a composite primary key. Next, we shall discuss what are candidate keys and what are alternate keys. we have already discussed what is a primary key. Okay, so now let us understand what is a candidate key. A column or a set of columns can be said to be a candidate key if they identify each row of a table uniquely. Means any key, any attribute that is able to uniquely identify an entity in an entity set is said to be a candidate key. Now, table can have multiple candidate keys, like we all know. We will discuss this with the help of an example over here also. So a table can have multiple candidate keys. From among these candidate keys only, we select one key, and that key is known as primary. Okay, so we can have n number of candidate keys in a table. And from among the n number of candidate keys, we will select one key, which will make the primary key. And the rest of the keys, they are known as alternate keys. Again, let us discuss this, understand this with the help of an example. Let us see over here, we have the attributes student ID, student enrollment number, student name, and student email. Now, as you can see over here, uh, let us first see what all can be candidate keys for this table. So student ID, as you all know, this will be unique. Then again, student enrollment number, this will again be unique. Student name, of course, can be repeated. So we are not going to make this as a candidate key. And then we have student email. This can also be, this will also be basically unique. So we can consider this as a candidate key. So this is unique. So this can be a candidate key. Then this is unique. This can be a candidate key. And this is unique for the table. So this can be a candidate key. So we have three candidate keys over here. This is 1, this is 2, and this is 3. Now from among these candidate keys, we are going to select one key which will make the primary key of our table. So we can choose any one, but the concept is that we should choose whichever is most appropriate. Like for example, we are not going to choose this student email because student email can change at a later point of time. The email of a student can change. Okay, so we will choose the key as the primary key, whichever is the most appropriate. So we will choose over here student ID because student ID will remain consistent throughout the time the student studies in a course. So this we are making as the primary key. And the remaining keys now, like this one and this one, these will form the alternate. So the remaining keys that are not the primary key, they are known as the alternate keys. So this is the concept of candidate key and alternate. Next, let us discuss what is a super key. Now we know what is a primary key, we know what is a candidate key, we know what are alternate keys. Now let us see super key. Now super key is an attribute set that can uniquely identify a tuple. It can also uniquely identify a tuple, but the thing is that a super key may not be minimal. Like a candidate key is basically a minimal set, but a super key need not be minimal. A super key basically is a superset of a candidate. Now, how do we make a super key? Adding 0 or more attributes to the candidate key generates the super key. Again, let us understand this with the help of an example. We have taken the student table over here. Now, these are basically the attributes: student roll number, student name, address, and phone number. So, as we all know, this is the primary key. We can see over here, student roll number will be the primary key of this table. Now, I want to make a super key. So combining this student roll number with any of the remaining attributes or a combination of the attributes will form other super key. For example, student roll number can alone be the super key. Then student roll number and combining student roll number with student name can be one super key. Then combining student roll number with address can be another super key. Combining student roll number with phone number can be another super key. Combining student roll number with student name and address means with both will be another super key. Combining student roll number with student name and phone number will be another super key. So we can have many super keys. So basically the concept of super key is that it is an attribute that can uniquely identify a tuple, but it may not be minimal, right? So this is the concept of super key. Uh, as you can see over here, the relationship between primary key, candidate key, and super key. As we can see over here, that candidate key is basically a superset of primary key, and super key is basically a superset of candidate key, as discussed in the earlier slide. Lastly, we'll discuss about foreign key. Now we have discussed about tables, like we have different tables, and in different tables we will have primary key, we can have alternate key, we can have candidate keys. Now, when we are having more than two tables, so these two tables, how we are going to associate them, how we are going to relate them. So for this, for relating them, for associating them, we will need a key that is foreign key. So what actually is a foreign key? Let us see. A primary key of a table is called a foreign key to another table when that column is used to relate the two tables. Primary key in one table will act as a foreign key in another table so that those two tables can be associated. Let us understand this with the help of an example. I'm having a student relation over here. These are the attributes of a student ID: first name, last name, age, and grade. So as you can see over here, we can make this as the primary key. Student ID is the primary key over here. So this is the primary key in this student relation. Now I'm having, now next I will take another relation, course relation. Now I'm taking course relation, and the attributes over here are course ID, course name, and instructor. So as you can see over here, we can take course ID as the primary key over here. In this relation, the course ID is the primary key because this is unique for this relation. Now, this student relation and course relation, these are two different tables. I want to associate them. So how I will be able to relate these two tables? Because at later point of time, uh, I, there may be situations when I may need to associate the two tables and find out something from it. Like I want to know which students are studying which course and what is the course name and who is the instructor. So how will I be able to find out this? So for this, I will need the concept of foreign key. So the foreign key will help in associating the two tables. Now, what can be done is I can make this primary key, the primary key of one table will serve as a foreign key in another table. Now, this is a primary key over here. If I use this course ID in the student relation, I'm using this course ID in the student relation. So this course ID will now become foreign key over here. So this will be now the foreign key. Okay, so this will be the foreign key, and student ID is the primary key of this relation. So student is in the student relation, uh, the attributes that I was having, I'm having those attributes, plus I've added another attribute, course ID, from another table, course. Okay. And this course ID will now be the foreign key. The primary key in this table, okay, the primary key in this table is used as a foreign key in this table. So these values, now these values will basically come from here. So these values will come from here. Any value over here must be from this table only. So this is basically the concept of foreign key. These are the references that I've used. Thank you.